You'd think 170 some episodes that have this shit.
Yeah.
Well, when you rush around, you know, I'm like, we're out here talking about deer and, you know, all that kind of big buck. And, you know, I'm like, oh, well, Jake's on. Maybe we should jump on there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, nothing's working.
All right. Where are you guys at?
We're in it's like Lebanon County, Manheim area.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. In my backyard in the studio.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was a woodshed at one point.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and now if you lay a candle in here, you have a risk of it actually burning down because all the pallet wood.
Pallet wood and gunpowder.
Yeah. Well, there is gunpowder.
That's cool.
Yeah, had the flintlock in the corner over there, trying to keep it cool for the late season. You know.
Yeah, I'm not. And I'll be honest with you, I'll put a bow in my hand before I put one of them death traps in my hand.
Amen, dude. That's me. He was getting on me. He was like, "You sold your flintlock," and I was like, more confident with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took my bow out more last year than I took the flintlock out, but that was mostly because it was like crappy weather. Like it was like foggy and rainy. Like if there was snow on the ground with no precipitation, I would 100% take the flintlock out. But man, it's just I need to get one. Like it's not a want. I want to shoot something with the flintlock. Like it's just I've had it for I want to say 6 years now. But I went flintlock hunting with my older flintlock before. It was one of those double trigger ones.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that thing was that was a pain. I missed actually a 6-point with that.
Oh
yeah.
shit.
Yeah. There's a story behind that I can't tell on the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know the flintlock stuff. My family used to do it a little bit, but as I got older, like none of my uncles or my dad really does it anymore. So I'd rather have a bow in my hand.
Yeah,
confident with it.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I would feel more confident about it. Obviously, going off, like I have complete control.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is not going off, and then you sit there and mess with powder, and then it gets wet. It's just and I can't. I walk a lot, especially late season, and I end up rushed half the time. I took it last year, and I looked down like 4 times, and I had no powder in my pan. I dumped out. Like it's not. It's not something that I'm keen on. You know. Just
100%. Like it was. I think I found out last year that I was doing it all wrong the whole time.
Really?
Like I was holding the gun the wrong way, where I kept looking down. I was like, why is this powder like always just falling out of my pan? Like I'm holding it the right way. But I think my dad told me that at one point. So I just always held it that way. Like I was holding it. So like you're holding the gun like this and like held it to the side more. So the pan was like facing down and everything would come out. But really you want to hold it the other way. So the powder goes actually in the hole.
In your hole.
Yeah. So now I'm actually doing it the right way. So hopefully I can,
it goes off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hope. At least go off. Yeah. So I'll tell a little bit of the 6.1 that I missed. I think it was, I want to say I was 14. So it was still like the whole, brown and down type thing.
Oh yeah.
You could shoot pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And he comes down. I'm in this little we had property up in Juniata that we'd always hunt. Like it was private property. I think it was 80 acres, like 100 or 80 acres or something like that. But it was like surrounded where no one else hunted it. So he comes down, not feeling pressure at all. And it's like a little bowl in front of me. So he's like 60 yards in front of me. And I'm setting it back, pulling it back, like obviously trying to go slow because every single thing on the flintlock like makes a clicking sound.
Yeah.
So he gets in front of me and all I remember is like he stopped right there and he like looked up and like started chewing. Like he was just chewing and looking at me. So I'm like, okay, well, instead of doing one trigger at a time, I'm going to do both. And the thing didn't go off. And then I put more pan powder in and he's still looking at me. And then I squeezed again. And like, it was like that 2-second, 3-second delay. and all of a sudden I saw smoke, and he was like over here already. So I was like, oh my god, that would be my first buck too, which would have been epic to get first buck with a flintlock.
Wow.
He's epic.
Yeah,
I think any buck with, or any deer in general with a flintlock is an extreme accomplishment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, would you? So we all went flintlock hunting. We've all done that.
Yep.
Would you? I know we like to see them grow, all that kind of stuff, but like you said, any deer is an accomplishment with it.
If it's legal,
yeah,
in my opinion, and you can get a clean shot off,
yep,
by all means, like, hats off to you. Like,
yeah.
Just because it's such an antiquated law, in my opinion, for Pennsylvania, we're like the last state that you can't, late season, it's flintlock only, round ball.
Yep.
There's no, and the accuracy is, some guys with the long rifles, now you're talking, you've ever seen them big, giant flintlock.
Yeah.
Now, those guys that practice a lot can shoot 100 yards.
Yeah.
But everyday Joe Schmoes, I mean, like me or you guys probably, I mean,
yeah.
60, 70 yards, and it's like, okay, that's
poke. That's a poke with a flintlock.
Yeah.
70 yards. I'm like, all right.
It looks tiny because you're using a bead. Like,
oh yeah,
yep.
The bead's gonna cover like the whole vitals.
Yep.
Yeah. You just pretty much aim for the deer. At that moment, it's like you just hope you hit something where it gets wounded, so you can get another, ram another bullet in there and.
That's the ethical thing too. Is it like, is it really ethical, or are you more or less wounding deer? Because a lot of people, like, round balls are not gonna bleed. You hit them in the, like, you throw one of them through the guts, not gonna bleed. It's just gonna be a little hole puncture. They're gonna die, but they're gonna take off, and you're not gonna be able to track them.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. I'm kind of torn about the whole ethical thing on there, where I'd rather put a bow with a 2-inch cutting diameter and a big bleeder on there, and like, if you hit them bad, they're still gonna bleed.
Yep.
Just much better, chance of recovering an animal with a bow.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
for sure.
That kind of goes, with the ethical thing. I mean, I started out with a crossbow. It kind of goes back to that because you've seen a lot more people just flinging shots at deer because of the crossbow, right? So it kind of like, it kind of goes hand in hand with that. But then also you kind of see where, you have this pressure for certain people to, shoot compounds because it's the right, if you're capable of doing it, you should be able to go out and shoot a compound.
Yeah.
But then you have people who don't put in the time with the compound, and they just go out there and they just wound a deer because they don't want to be shamed for shooting a crossbow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
and it's you could have an entire discussion about that.
Oh yeah. That's a rabbit hole.
That's a whole discussion in and of itself. But
that's
the whole late season thing. Like, I would put a bow in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
The deer made it this long already. Like, try to kill them as quick as you can.
Yeah.
I get I get the flintlock thing because it's like a Pennsylvania tradition. It's
cool.
Yeah.
But it's just not for everybody out there. Like, now you guys have seen it. Pennsylvania, you take some of the people you see going to gun season. Now throw a flintlock in their hand and try.
Take cover.
Yeah, that's a disaster.
Yeah, it's I don't even personally know if like the Amish really go out during flintlock. Like, I'm sure they do, but I've never seen them out really. I've never seen them out during that time.
I've seen them with some crossbows before. Doing some drives. That's about the extent.
Yeah,
but they are ruthless. They don't let the deer alone.
Oh my gosh, no.
A guy came in this week, an Amish guy came in this week, bought 3 flintlocks. And I was like, you heading out for late season? He just nodded. I was
like, oh yeah. Ruthless, man.
Old Jebediah came in to buy 3 muzzleloaders, huh?
Loaded them up in the buggy and down the road he went. Man.
What kind of bullets did he buy?
He bought round balls.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
So is that what you guys primarily shoot? Because I shoot the I just picked them up from
Buffalo. You shoot the buffalo bullets?
Yeah, like they're it's no, they're called traditions. The tradition ones.
Okay.
Where like they're like actual bullets, like they have a point to them, and I use those.
The
50
Sabres.
cal one. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I use. I did start out with the round ball. Like that's what I primarily used in the double trigger one. But this one here, I've been using. Last year I used you can use like practice ones as bullets to shoot a deer too. Because I mean, with how close you got to get, like it's you would still put a deer down if you put a good shot on with a practice one.
Yeah.
But I decided to go more ballistic round this year with them. Because if I get a good buck in front of me, I want to be able to shoot him.
Sure.
Yeah. The worst thing is if you're going to go out for a couple days in a row. Well, are you one of those guys? Do you fire it off every time? Do you put it back in your truck?
That's last year. Well, last 2 years, I literally let it loaded all like it was loaded till the next season. Like I was like, I'm not shooting it. It was like,
did it go off when you shot it?
What was that?
When you shot it again, did it go off right away? Or did it take
So,
you?
I'm trying to think. So 2 years ago, when I shot it last year before the season at the range, it did go off, and it was like I was actually scared shitless because like I put a lot of pan powder in, and I was like, I gotta blow this thing up pretty much because it was downstairs, and like it's cool enough downstairs.
Yeah.
It won't get messed up, but I was like, man, I gotta really fill this thing up to get it to go off. I felt, and it's like all of a sudden like all this smoke just was in front of my eyes, and like it was longer than it would normally be, where it's like 2 seconds. It was like a good 5 seconds where it was like I could almost hear the sizzling, and then
it takes off. Wow.
Yeah, I think I almost shit my pants on that one. That was
Rightfully so. I'm sure the guy next to you at the range did too.
Yeah, that was bad. So I learned from that mistake, and I shot off at the end of the year last year. But no, I don't. Every time I leave the woods, I don't shoot it off. Like I let it loaded to let it go, all that kind of stuff. But take the pan powder out, obviously.
Yeah,
so it's not loaded. I usually put it in either the garage or in the studio here, where it stays nice and cool, and then that way there's no buildup or chunkiness to it. Yeah,
dude.
Yeah. So okay, so now that we had that little discussion on flintlocks and traditional archery, and I think you should go longbow. If you go in tradition, that's just me personally. That's just me.
Yeah.
Timber Ninja, maybe.
Yeah, Timber Ninja. There you go.
Yeah. I can't get into that yet. I'm too much. I want to kill too many things still in my days.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll get in the traditional side of things, longbow.
Yeah.
But for right now, I can't jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Like it's kind of like, I feel like when I get to like I'm putting a number on it, like when I get to 70, and like I feel like then maybe I'll do the longbow thing.
At 70?
At 70. That's my goal.
Jesus.
If I had more, I might do it if I had like patternable deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do like, they walk this trail, and like some just the setup, and you're like, yes, I'm gonna 100%. These deer are gonna be within 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. But everywhere I hunt, I'm sorry, it's like my shots range from 10 to 70. Like
yeah.
And that's why I practice as much as I do. Go to TAC events and things. Is I am comfortable shooting out the 70 yards out of my saddle in the correct setting. Strong side, perfect. No, nothing in the way. It has to be right, but that's just. But maybe in the future I'll get into that whole 20 yards and under thing.
Yeah. Dude, it's definitely it's cool to watch, cool to see those guys succeed and like, get deer down in general, just like with the flintlock, getting deer down in general with a longbow is a feat in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the big thing, show me one guy that, like I film everything. So show me one guy that films everything and has a longbow too. Like, cause you can't get real high.
Yeah.
So the whole thing with the traditional stuff is those guys are only, 8 feet off the ground. Well, you can't throw a camera arm, throwing a camera, moving it around, and then decide to stick and string it. Like you got to pick one.
Yeah.
Just you can't Otherwise, you're not going to have any opportunity.
100%. Yeah. I've seen a lot more people this year going like the lower route, like setting up lower, like 1-2 sticks high, like 8 feet off the ground. Like I've seen a lot more people doing that, but then they also are filming. And I feel like that benefits in the early season, and it can benefit in the late season right now because like there's no leaves on the tree. You're trying to break yourself up, but you got to know where those deer are. You got to have those good openings. Like right now they're in that thick shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's like
time count shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Like where I went the other day, and we'll get into it a little bit, but like my legs are like, it looks like I have like, I don't even know, like chicken pox on my legs right now because like I was so tore up.
Thorn City.
Yeah, dude, it was. But then I put 3 cameras out, and I have a guy on camera. I got one doe on camera, and I have one guy on camera. Like, I did not think anyone else would be dumb enough to walk back in here. And he's an older guy. Like he's like, I'm not gonna stereotype, but he's wearing QU stuff, so I didn't think he would be walking back in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
There's nowhere I've come to the conclusion there's no such thing as conclusion anymore.
No.
Yeah.
There's not. And found some good beds. Like I sent you the pictures. Yeah. That big bed, which had that trail leading, the big high rubs and all that kind of stuff. And that trail literally like went upwind, and it would be going downwind of a doe bedding area. So like during the rut time frame, like that's a spot to be, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but deer transition right now. It's a very weird time of year.
Yeah.
Right after gun season, it's very, very strange.
Yeah, and you know what? We'll just jump right into let's jump into it first. Jake, welcome to the podcast. This is my co-host, Tyler Wilbur.
What's up, dude?
Nice to meet you guys. Yeah, I met both of you at Harrisburg, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. The reason we got you on here is because you've had some success in late season. You're a good hunter. You hunt a lot. You run a lot of cameras. You scout a lot. All that kind of stuff. But before we get into that, you want to introduce yourself, maybe a little background of who you are, how you got into hunting, and all that good stuff that everyone wants to hear.
Yeah. So I pretty much, my backstory is basically hunting has been everything. I've done it my whole life. My dad got me into it at a young age, and I mean he's one of those silent killers that he doesn't have. He has Facebook now, but very, very seldom. He killed a lot of really good deer for like 30 years. He killed a buck every single year for 30 years straight. In Pennsylvania, over half of them on public and half on my uncle's ground. But he taught me everything. So, but before I got into the industry, so to speak, I was a professional athlete. And then when that kind of just stopped, injuries and, I just basically got cut. And I was like, okay, well, I want to hunt for a living, do something in the hunting world. So I basically picked up a camera. This was 5.5 years ago already now. And just been kind of going at it since then. Working odd jobs. I mean, you talk to a lot of guys of the industry that's kind of made it, so to speak, like these big name guys. Their backstories in the very beginning are very all similar. Like they never gave up. They slept in their truck. They, cut corners where they could. I mean, and that's kind of what I did. I worked a summer job and made as much money as I could in a short window, like between hunting seasons. And then once hunting season came, I quit. I just straight made my money, quit, and then just like tried to not spend it very fast and hunt as much as I possibly could.
Right.
That's pretty much how I got to what I am right now and what I'm doing. It's just been a grind, and I just don't stop, basically.
Yeah, dude. We definitely can tell with the photos, the videos, all that kind of stuff. I know Tyler has some questions regarding, videos, photos, all that kind of stuff before we get into late season talk.
Dude, what so you're running all Sony gear?
Yeah.
So I have the A7 IV. Are you running the 4, the 3?
I have the A7 IV.
Nice.
I also have an A7S III, which is my main video camera.
Nice. And what lens do you like running on that one, Jake?
It all depends on the situation, but I would say the best for right now for most guys is the 24-105
Nice.
4G Master.
Yeah.
That's going to cover a big range. It's got a really good shallow depth of field. It's going to do it's like a dual lens.
Yeah.
I try not to get too in depth with guys that do it for themselves.
Yep.
When I do it for like commercials or like when I'm filming professionally for a television show or something, when I get contracted out, that's when I start throwing my really high end glasses on there.
Yeah.
My 70 to 200s, you know, my wide angles, my prime lenses, my 50 millimeter, my 85 millimeter. Like I have a wide range, but those I don't use them myself for my own stuff because it's too hard. It's way too difficult.
Sure.
So the 24-105 or even the 24-240 is a great self-filming lens, or even with your buddies. That's kind of like the best do-all stuff.
Okay. I was looking at the 24-105 and I was kicking it around, you know. I wanted that, you know, 2.8 aperture, you know, for those nice close-up tight end shots, but I think, you know,
if you're going to focus more on the video side, it's 100% a no-brainer.
Okay.
Because its depth of field, even though it's an f4, its focus distance is 8 inches. So you can be really tight to like, let's say an antler or something. You can only be a foot away, and it makes it look really shallow, even though it's an f4.
Nice.
So
awesome, brother. Appreciate it.
Man, that sounded like complete gibberish to me.
It's camera talk.
I'm like, I have a DSLR.
Yeah.
Cool. It's gear stuff,
gearhead stuff. Yeah.
No, but I'm planning a series, so I'm going to learn a lot. I'm going to take a lot of notes, try and, I'm terrible at like sitting down, taking notes, being like a student per se of certain things. And, I want to get into self-filming a little bit. I dabbled in it beginning of the season, kind of gave up on it because I was like, I'm not seeing the deer, I'm not doing that. Then I went to North Carolina, filmed down there a little bit, and that was the gist of it. Now late season, I'm kind of going to get back into it a little bit more because I kind of want to. Like, it's going to make the evenings a little more fun instead of just sitting there freezing my ass off in the stand or on the ground or whatever. So I'm going to do that. I use a camcorder with a boom mic on top, like pretty much the basic stuff. But yeah, so I might reach out to you again about that series that I have planned because it sounds like you do a lot of it, both big and small. Mostly, you use mostly DSLR, right? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've used everything, but I'm just a professional and stuff now.
Okay.
But like I said, I picked up a camera 5.5 years ago, and I literally have never gone in the woods without it.
Okay.
Ever. Like, people think it's crazy. They're like, you're carrying that constantly. Like, I'm trudging it through the woods. It sucks, but you never know what you might see, what you can capture. There's just so many things that people give up on. And I told myself, if I'm going to do this in the beginning, and I think it was my athletic competitive now, where I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm doing it 100%.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to just, I'll take it a day that it's easy. If it's raining, it's snowing, it's with me. Like it's part of my gear that's with me at all times.
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of questions regarding that, but I think I'm going to save them for the series. But one question I want to ask right now is like, how do you okay, so I see a lot of people carrying it like right here on their shoulder, right? But like, what do you use to carry it? Like,
they have certain, I think if I'm right, they have like a clip.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can,
there's a couple different companies out there. Cotton Carrier's one.
Okay.
I believe it's called Peaks Design.
Yeah.
Which is another one, which I have both, and I like the design a little bit better because it's more sleek and more solid. That's the one I like the most. The reason I keep, it's to keep it up off of your waistband, so when you're walking, it's kind of like a bino harness. It's easy, quick to get to. That's the biggest thing, is if it's not easily accessible, you're not going to use it.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's why I'm like, man, that would kind of keep me in it a little longer instead of just like throwing it in my backpack.
Yeah.
You know, like this way it's like right there.
Right there.
And I probably would honestly, if that's the case, I'd probably take the DSLR out and just do that and just use like an external mic that I could use with it. So like that's my one question regarding that, because I think that would be easy for everyone. Yeah. To kind of just, okay, like they have a handy cam or whatever, like just put it right there and just take it out. Like I have my GoPro, which that probably goes in my head or my chest or something like that, and then have the whatever else. And
honestly, just for people listening, if they want to get into self-filming or whatever, you know, they like, hey, what camera should I buy? Honestly, spend the money and buy the brand new iPhone 15.
Yeah,
it's like you're gonna have a brand new phone that you can do all your social stuff with or whatever, and the quality of it is top tier.
Yeah.
And most people are already tech enough savvy with a cell phone that it's easily to pick up. It does color. You can do S-Log almost in it. It's got its own like log look footage. You can plug in a hard drive right to it to save straight to a hard drive when you're like hunting specifically. So you can attach it to the back, and it's perfect for the beginner guys. And you have a cell phone, good cell phone. So it's like, I push everybody to just use your cell phone.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I've been trying to find the external hard drive, and I can't for the life of me find it. Like, do you have a link for that you can send me?
Yeah, it's just the SSD. So like
SSD. Okay.
Yeah. So I have the iPhone 15, and just honestly, I plug it in here, and I basically put a mag strip on the back. And I have a strip on the back of my little hard drive that's only this big. So then they basically magnetics. So when I film it, the hard drive is right here on the back of it.
Nice.
I can just use it.
Nice.
Saving straight to that hard drive, so it's not on my phone. And then when I'm done, I just unplug it, and it's on the hard drive.
Shit.
You don't send anything from your cell phone. You don't have to try and find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes straight to the hard drive when you're just filming your hunt, and then you can plug it into your computer later, and it's right there.
Yeah. It beats the whole which pictures of my baby girl do I delete?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
man.
Been there.
This photo here. Delete it.
And then I recover it like 2 days later.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, that was a good I guess you could say a little rabbit hole, but I think people can benefit from that. But late season's coming up. All right. So let's dive into late season. First of all, I think the big thing, we talked to Johnny. Johnny is the episode before you. So we talked about pressure with him. We talked a little bit about food, right?
Yep.
Food.
Food sources.
Yeah. So what kind of food source do you key in on when you're out there down for these deer?
So I mean, the obvious is oaks, red oak or black oak.
Okay.
I was just with Johnny in Ohio. We just left Ohio 2 days ago.
Okay.
That's exactly what we were focusing on. We were trying to find the red oaks and the black oaks, and that's where all the deer were at.
Okay. All right.
But then you're battling like where people here war, because I mean we hunt all public, and then this is for majority of big wood settings or that aren't pressured areas. The red oak and black oak are the number one and number two, food sources for this time of year if you can find it. And then you start moving on micro from there, depending on your area. So then you get into your browse, because it's not talked about. In my opinion, browse is not talked about enough.
No. Yeah, agreed.
And then biologically, it's 90% of a deer's, intake, higher life.
Yep.
So a food source, like we talk about oaks all the time, is a very, very small percentage window compared to just natural browse.
Yep.
And that's that woody stem, high stem count, short shrubbery stuff that people don't see as food because they just see it as brush.
Right.
But those small stems, maple stems, because that's what a lot of people will find initially is maple stems, because it's pretty wide coverage in the Northeast and most where your listeners probably are.
Mhm.
The real green, fresh growth. I mean, you look, they're all nipped off. Greenbrier is another huge one for late season.
Mhm.
So if you got Greenbrier, those deer love just laying in it and not moving at all.
Yeah.
And it's not only a cover, I call it a cover crop because they can lay right in it and they can eat. Right where they're bedding. So
yeah, I mean that's where I found those beds that we were talking about prior. That's where those beds I found were, and it's an old clear cut. I would say maybe the OnX doesn't have it where it shows the date around it.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it has to be at least like 8 years old. Like it's an old cut.
Is the trees more or less like a 3-4 inch tree? So they're like pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not many trees, but yeah, they're like you said, they're about, I would say like the size of like a football type round, like those size. Yeah.
So they're probably, you're anywhere from probably a 10-year-old cut, like you said, 8, 10, 12, depending. Yeah. It's hard to say after 5 years.
Yeah. But it's very thick and gnarly in there. Yeah. Like it's super thick. I mean, there's good bedding in there, but then also like I found old logging roads and I was like, oh wow, like this is pretty cool. But when I went in there was the other day when it really rained bad, there was like flash flooding around here.
Yep.
And I looked down this road that I found in between thick cover and it looked like there was a stream there now. So it was like it holds water there. So like if they have that, they have water, they have cover, they have that food source right there, the Greenbrier.
They don't gotta move.
Yeah. And like I found this scrape right on like the flat part. Like it was open, flat part, trees right there. There was no thickness around it, and it was right there. I was like, it's surrounded by thick cover all around right here.
Are you guys? So do you ground hunt much, like on the ground?
Once in a while.
Yeah, I typically don't. I'm typically like a mobile setup.
So that's one thing that I'm starting to get back to is I've caught myself always trying to get in a tree.
Yeah.
But realistically, you have a better chance and better shooting opportunities and windows, especially things like you're saying, like clear cuts and things where these deer are not going to move outside the clear cut in daylight.
Right.
They don't really have to. So why not get in there, get tight on the ground and just tuck yourself in behind a deadfall or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to have a better opportunity this late season just staying on the ground. I mean,
sure.
So would you would push into that clear cut and like hunt near that area?
I would, yeah. I mean, the signs obviously like fresh droppings and things.
Right.
Food sources are going to tell you where they're hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if it's an option where you can see some lanes, 25, 30 yards, inside, why not sit on the ground? Like,
yeah.
It's going to be up close and personal, but I mean, late season, you kind of got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because that when I was in there, I was like, okay, like I found the buck bed, found those doe beds, and then I found that scrape and I found the trails going to and from it. And I was like, man, like I was right away, like my mind goes to the mobile setup. I'm like, where am I going to set up? Like,
where are you going to, yeah.
Like, I found some trees. I was like, okay, maybe I can set up there. It's like 35 yards from the trail. And I was like, if I get up high enough, I can see up in there. But then if I get too high, then he's going to skyline me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was like playing the what if kind of game. And it's like, man, and now that you said that, like it would make a lot more sense to just hunt from the ground. Yeah. And that way you can easily move.
A lot of people overlook that. Think about our old timers. Like there was no such thing as getting in a tree all the time.
Yeah.
Like you probably found the old wooden stand, like a piece of wood stuck in a tree. Like they're only 4 feet off the ground. Maybe see or whatever. But I'm a big mobile hunter like everybody else, but I I catch myself in times like I don't have to be in a tree. It's not a must thing.
Right.
So this next year, I mean, I'm gonna slowly get back into hunting on the ground more than I used to do it a lot when I was young. I had success with it, and I just, as technology and fads and everybody doing the mobile thing and getting the tree and saddle hunting. I mean, I always second catch myself. I'm like, man, why? You have a better shooting opportunity on the ground.
Yeah.
And if you see them maybe at 100 yards and it's quiet, you can maybe cut 10 yards, 15 yards to where they're going to come, and you can maybe intercept them. Like it's giving you those options. When you're in a tree, you have no options.
Yeah. 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 It's not like the rut where, like, you see action happening 150 yards, 200 away. It's like, okay, that doe was just chased by that buck. Maybe I should get down, set up close to that trail right there where they're going. This here, it's like they might be chasing a little bit, but it's like when they find that fresh food, if there's one deer over there eating, there's a good chance there might be another deer or couple deer coming out because they're herding up at this moment in time.
Yeah, they're herd. It's herd mentality right now. You're the bachelor groups of bucks together. They're going to be very habitual.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense to hunt the ground. Certain spots, like if you're hunting a field edge, like maybe then if you know where they're coming out, then set up in the tree.
Right.
Exactly.
Have to cover. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I think that might be my more mentality going in, because last year I used the saddle last year. I went down to the field, the farthest field in to this piece of public, and I set up in a tree. I got 2 sticks up and my bow was on the ground, and this doe came out right in the field and just like 10 yards from me, just cuts right in. I'm like, what the? And it was like foggy. I couldn't, my rangefinder wasn't telling me how far it was, and my bow was on the ground. Then I get set up and I look behind me, and there's this buck that just head down running behind me. I'm like, what's going on? Like, what is going on right now? And then it's like, I want to move so bad, but then you get set up.
Yeah.
In the tree, it's like, I just set up. It took me at least, max 10 minutes to get set up.
You're fast.
Hey, that's not always a good thing.
It's, I'm gonna be a proponent on it, because I'm with Cruiser Saddles, the whole 9, whatever. But I really think that people overlook getting on the ground and just being a ground and pound guy. I mean, think about how many deer are shot from the ground by old timers in rifle season and things. They're like, he came 10 yards and looked at me, and I shot him.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get the motivation. I turn on Zach Farrenball. I pull out the ghillie suit. I look at it and I'm like, yeah. And then for whatever reason, the next day I forget the ghillie suit and I lose my motivation again.
I talked to this guy. I think I can't remember if it was archer season. I know that I went back to the piece. I had a pre-hung stand there with a primary scraper outside of bedding. Never saw action there all year. Really upset about that. But I come out and I'm talking to this guy. He has he's an old guy. He's had a crossbow. He said he just got back into hunting this year, and he was sitting on a stool, and he had a 5-point come out behind him, and he had other bucks come out behind him inside this clear cut, and he was like, I just couldn't get a shot off at him. I was like, and now you think about it, it's like, sometimes ground hunting is the best way to go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
My dad doesn't get in a tree at all. And that's kind of where it came in my head why I need to do this more. My dad, he never gets in a tree. Like he's just one of those guys. He likes staying on the ground, even when he doesn't bow hunt much. He just doesn't. He's one of those likes rifle hunting in the snow things. But when he does bow hunt, he's still on the ground. Like he just finds a tree, tucks up against it. Vocalization, grunts, stuff, and acts like a deer.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he has deer around him all the time. He usually shoots 1 or 2 deer on the ground, a doe, or sees a buck that he might not want to shoot. The ground is very overlooked in today's day and age.
Yeah.
I mean, I even thought about it, like, just as you're talking about that, like with Cruiser saddle, and I run the Mondo, the XOP Mondo, the saddle for there. You could easily still set up on the ground with the saddle. Like it's like you could just there, so you're just like kind of just hanging there. And you can still use that if you don't have good cover. Use that tree as like you're still your cover,
barrier,
and then you can just lean out around. Like it's there's options you can do with ground hunting, and not just
Always options.
Yeah. Yeah. Like cover yourself in mud, just roll around in mud and just, just
be adaptable.
Be the earth.
Yes. Become the woods.
Man, that could be a slogan for some. I don't know who's gonna use that, but you're welcome.
It's already taken.
Be the earth. I feel like it's a vegan thing.
Probably.
Oh man. So we talked a little about the tech side of things, of how everything's going kind of tech. I know you run a lot of cameras.
Yes.
I went from 1 camera up to 23 cameras now, and I feel overwhelmed with it. Do you see more like action in certain places with those cameras in the late season? Like where in the early season there might not be any action there, but then come late season time, it's like it's a hot spot.
I do. I currently, I think right now have 90, it's close to 100.
Man, I felt life was.
Yeah, it gets pretty hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
But there's certain ones that I put out and just let there all year. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons of why I do certain things, but I find a lot of these, like I find a lot of deer using just really open woods in the late season. It's pretty wild. Where you just in early season. So think about before people are in the woods at all, like August, June, July, August.
Yeah.
So, and what comes to my head is these big oak flats that are just open. Well, when now it's late season, I mean, so gun season came about, they got pushed into the nastiest, thickest stuff that they can find. Their sanctuary, wherever they can get away from pressure.
Right.
So they've been there for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, depending, maybe even 3. Bear season, and my area, bear season is a huge thing. So guys driving, and even in bow season, so there's just pressure after pressure. I mean, it's pounded from November on.
Yeah.
So now they've been basically holed up for 5 weeks almost into their laurel thickets or whatever, their clear cuts. They're eating themselves out of house and home where they've been. But they know of oaks where they were early season, they were just kind of easy, lackadaisical feeding.
Right.
They're going to go back to them as long as the pressure is down.
Right.
I found it in the bigger wood settings. You get on some south leeward facing slopes, big open oaks next to some bedding, some thicker stuff that they might have stayed in. They're going to venture out into the open stuff and just bed in the wide open timber.
Okay.
And this all comes from shed hunting, years of finding, sheds, deer sign, just bumping deer during January in the middle of, there's like wide open timber that you're just trucking through quick. And then you just start to think, like, why are they out here? And if you got locked into your bedroom for a long time, you're going to get out and then go back and start walking around your living room and your other side parts of the house, because you just can't stand being in one spot.
That's right. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how long of a time frame do you see between like all this pressure, those 2-3 weeks, and then all of a sudden they start coming out to this open area? Like, what's the time frame usually that you see?
It's going to take until like now through January.
Okay.
So I have a particular, a specific thing I can think about is I have a deer that I've been hunting for 4 or 5 years. I always get them on camera around like Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, or the day after Christmas. Like within those 3 days, daylighted on the bottom of his logging road. That's going. He's going to and from the open timber. Like, he's there.
Yeah.
I know he lives in that clear cut and just doesn't move, and you can't run cameras in it. It's too thick. It's just not really feasible.
Right.
But I run it on that logging road that I seen him on 4 or 5 years ago. And it's just a historical. I'm just going to run it for that. And he's going to feed at 9 o'clock in the morning on the one going to the open timber to feed. I mean, you can tell he's run down. His guard, they let their guard down, They're like, okay, it's safe. I haven't heard anybody messing around. Nobody's been in the woods. I haven't smelled human scent interference for almost 2 weeks. They let their guard down, and now they're going to go back to where they should be feeding. So
that just, I mean, so there's really 2 times a year where they let their guard down, like when they're thinking with the wrong head, and then when they're just thinking with their stomach. Like,
oh yeah,
2 times when they're
100%.
literally let your guard down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the late
Oh, go ahead, bud.
the late season, in my opinion, is if you, and this is a big if you can find them in our, so we're in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
We have timber and woods out the wazoo.
Mhm.
Midwest, they kill them because they have crops and they can't hide in the timber because there's not much food there. They have to come out and show themselves.
Yeah.
They have to feed or to survive. So that's why you see a lot of the Midwest guys. The late season is a killer for those big giants. Like they have to feed, and it's the same thing in our setting. You just have to be able to find them without bumping them, because if you bump them, they're gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're not gonna come. They played the game too much, especially mature deer. I'm talking 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 year old deer. They just know it.
Yeah.
So if you can, we're kind of almost past the window, but we just had that snow that just came through. You need to be in the woods figuring out where these mature deer are at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fresh snow.
But you need to be walking around like you're hunting,
Yeah.
not just trudging through the woods with not a sense in the world, because there's a lot of guys out there that are just wind at their back, going to pull a tree stand or go to look, pull a camera, or just kind of let their human hunting senses down and not think like, okay, I'm going to go in here like I'm hunting.
Yeah.
A different approach. If you approach it like you were hunting without a gun, to check some sign, maybe move a camera or two, especially in the snow. I love using snow if we get it.
Mhm.
It is a sheer, like, here's a big deer track. Here's a big backtrack into his bed. He's here. Here's where he walked to feed. I'll put a camera back near where he's bedding. I'll put a camera where he's feeding, and I get out of there. And then that's it. If you can, and then you can time it. I mean, you can have some success doing that.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Love snow.
So, Jake, I kind of want to back up. So, I kind of, for staging trail cameras throughout the year, like, what's your mindset when you're, deploying your cameras? I kind of have like a system where I stage my cameras accordance to elevation. Like, I'll stage them in the lower elevation parts, anticipating, kind of for inventory, and anticipating, nighttime activity. Is that something you do when you're staging your cameras for the season?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I rely on my off-season scouting.
Okay.
That's just how I like to set my stuff up, and that's because I travel in September. I elk hunt out west, and I don't have time to move my stuff when I need to. So like in the summer, I will put those cameras that I might not be able to get. I might not get a picture on it for a month, like primary scrape. I might not get a picture until they start shedding their velvet, and then it starts getting hit. And then that gives me a little bit of inventory, and then if I can get back to that, but I don't change elevation levels.
Okay.
Just for checking different areas, I check that based on my boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Where I use my cameras necessarily for just learning a new area, is basically primary crossings, pinch points, and scrapes. Like scrapes it might not give you like the best inventory in terms of like when they're there, why they're there, but it tells you they went through that. And now it's game on. Like if I get a picture of a deer, it's like, okay, game on. I got to start figuring out which way I got to come to. That's kind of the way I run a lot of my stuff, and then micro adjust from that.
Right. So have you found like your bucks, will they tend to favor like how they say the upper third of a mountain. Have you found consistency with that, you think?
Yes, 100%. Definitely the upper third. I hunt a lot of really steep, nasty country, rocky.
Nice.
I tried it. I mean, I'm one of those guys that I'm in stuff that I like. You don't want to be in.
Yeah.
And I keep telling myself like, go find easier things to hunt. Like I know they're out there.
Right.
But I'm always gravitated back to like, okay, I know nobody goes up here.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm here, like I'll find a deer that I can chase because I know nobody else is going to be dumb enough to do what I'm doing.
Right. Nice.
But that's just because I don't like pressure. Because I'm trying to pattern big 140, 150 inch deer on public in Pennsylvania, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
And then settle for less if possible.
Yeah.
If possible. But I cluster cameras. Like I won't just throw one on a ridge and then call it good. Like I'll minimum of 3 or 4, like strung out.
Yep. Yep. That's what Steve told me. He kind of enlightened me on that. He clustering cameras, and I've found it to be very, very great.
Yeah.
You cluster them like on a point, like you surround that point and then find another area and you cluster. Like don't just randomly string them out, like one on the top, one halfway down, one on the bottom, and it's all in like the same trail system.
Yeah.
You might never get a deer on it.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
That's kind of like I've always wanted to do that, but I didn't feel like I had enough cameras to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like you need to be on a deer, a buck in general, to be like clusters. You got to have an inkling that he's there to want to cluster him there, right? Like you don't just want to cluster him in random spots. Like, okay, this, there's a scraper here. I'm just going to cluster it around this scraper. Or is that something that you would do?
If I'm learning a new area, I do that.
Okay. All right.
But a lot of my cameras that are deployed are from last year's knowledge.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all concurrent on year after year basis. It's not like I've never been here, I'm going to put 20 cameras in here. Like,
right.
Because I did that out in the middle of nowhere in Sproul State Forests. I mean, I can tell, I don't have a problem telling people like, good luck with it.
It's huge.
It's massive.
Massive.
I threw 5 cameras out there and clustered them. 2 of them stopped working. One of them, I accidentally put on video mode and the batteries died within a month. The one, a bear ripped, and then the 5th one took pictures but didn't have anything on it. So there I went, 0 for 5.
There's actually we were talking about Johnny last week when we got off the 9 point. How I said the guy looked like Jake when I was coming down the hill. So have you ever? I'm not gonna say the name of the town, and I think that, but I'm gonna say, it's in Potter County, and the town starts with a W, and there's a bar in there that also starts with a W. Do you know which town I'm talking about?
I believe so.
Okay. Have you ever?
Is it along the river right there, right across the bridge?
Let me check. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Have you ever hunted around there?
Very little. I have been through it, but it is not the habitat that I would like to hang out in.
Okay. Because you can't see it right now. This buck right here, 9 point, I got him on top of the hill in a clear cut. And I was coming down the hill, and the guy that stopped and was talking to me a little bit, literally looked like you. He looked like you. So I was like, maybe that was Jake when I came down.
Hey, Jake.
No, I don't think it was me.
Yeah. That was back in, when was it? I think it was this is 2023. Yeah. That was probably 2020, I want to say, maybe around that time frame. So yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I lose track. If I did, I lose track. I'm terrible. Oh my.
Yeah,
I've seen so many deer. I mean, it's fortunate, but my dad's a taxidermist, and I help him out in the fall.
Yeah.
I see so many deer, like dead deer. Like, my mind gets scrambled on like what year and where I seen it, and
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. But I was like, oh, maybe that's a deer that he was chasing. I shot him. You know, maybe I'm just good.
Oh, it could have been.
It could have been. But he could have used a few more years, I think.
Yeah.
It's
It's we live in a state that you can't really like.
no.
I do let deer go, but that's because I can like. This is just a personal thing that I have time next year, hopefully, to be able to put in to hunt as much as I want.
Right.
Guys that are weekend guys working at 9 to 5, like, and you're hunting either public ground or a lease or something that's hot, you know, with a bunch of other guys on it. Man, if you're happy with it, by all means. But I do see, in general, this past couple years, I've seen an age increase of our deer herd. So, like, and this is a biological thing that they've been talking about across the state, that I have seen the age structure of our deer herd that was used to be like 1.5 to 2.5.
Yeah.
It's now like 2.5, creeping on 3.5.
That's good.
Keep going.
Which is great.
Yeah.
For the trophy deer that everybody's after.
Mm-hmm.
Why you're seeing more guys jumping on now that, oh yeah, you know, maybe this antler restriction thing's working. Maybe, you know, it's a multiple avenue thing. It's antler restrictions, but it's also a little bit less deer guys in the woods numbers.
Yep.
It's our seasons are a little bit different, you know, because bow hunting is now a little bit longer. Gun seasons, different days changed, weather related. I mean, there's a multiple factors, but I just seen our age structure increase a little bit, and now we're getting better deer.
Yeah.
Our neighbors to the north, this and the west, Ohio kills giants.
Yes.
We kill giants too, but not in the number because our age structure isn't there.
Right.
It's not that our genetics ain't here. It's our entire age structure is not here. So
Yeah.
I predict within the next 10, 15 years that not only Pennsylvania is going to, like, we're killing good ones, but our increase of number, so we'll be killing double this amount of big ones in the next 10 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. You know, but also to go along with that, people have to start shooting doe. Like that.
Oh yeah.
One thing, like 100%, people got to start shooting doe, because if you want that age to keep going up, like you're talking about, it's like you gotta, like they always say, a buck will not fight a doe for food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not going to do that. So like, if you don't start taking some doe out, herd management, all that kind of stuff, like it might plateau before it gets up to that really nice age frame. You know, it's like you gotta shoot doe, and I know people who doe tags, and they just
think about so it's a 5, 6, 7-year-old doe, which is pretty common.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Now this science has to back this up, but I can't see the 1.5-year-old bucks her letting them breed her.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a dominant thing, even though they are of age to breeding age. I don't see a mature doe allowing a younger, insubordinate, you know, buck to breed her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's going to cause this big, and this is where you're starting to get to see these second rut and third rut things, like why there's late fawns, you know, because she missed her window because that other buck, you know, the mature buck in the area was tending to a different doe.
Yeah.
Or things. And it's starting to, it creates the whole balance of the herd to get out of whack.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Ethan, another host of the podcast, he shot a 10-year-old doe up in Potter County last year. Like, and it looked like a calf, like an elk calf.
Yeah.
It was ginormous.
Wow.
It was bigger than that.
I wish a lot of guys, so private landowners, I know guys that, this is just in my area that I had a little bit of a problem with, was I ran into guys on the mountain. They're on public and they're driving. They have a group of 20 guys and they're driving for deer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know, and I knew every single one of them. They all have their own private farms at the base of the mountain. And I was like, why are you guys hunting up here? And they're like, oh,
Right.
we don't shoot does on our property. We come to the mountain to shoot. So they're private landowners.
Yeah.
That have farms with hundreds of deer on it. Like you can drive by in gun season and see them. They're going to the mountain that's public to kill off the does that have very little deer numbers to start with, because everybody hunts up there. Yeah. So they're driving and killing whatever they see, and then they're going to go back to their farms and let them alone. They only kill bucks on their farm.
Wow. Yeah, that's there's a lot wrong with the, controlling population,
that's what I see a problem with in our demographic across the states. The Pennsylvania there's a lot of guys that have small lease properties, maybe permission or whatever. They don't want to kill the does because they want to see them. They want to hunt there. It wants to be their little paradise, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You got to that can't happen. You can't use the public ground and the big vast, you've probably seen on forums that like 2G, up in the big woods, there's no deer left.
Yeah.
But then there's some people on there like, there's deer in my backyard all the time that live there because they protect them.
Yep.
The protected deer also need shot.
Yes. 100%, Tyler. Remember that.
I know. My cabin's in 2G, so it was a rough year.
I'm talking about down here, the house. Remember that.
Well, come on over.
Okay.
But that just as a whole, like if people start using their deer tags for what they're for, when the state puts out the tags and the region, they don't care if it's shot in somebody's backyard. It doesn't matter. The numbers, and that's where they take the census.
Yep.
Is there's 200 deer in this particular spot, but only 10 of them are on public and the other 190 are on private.
Right.
And the guys on private don't want to shoot them.
Yeah.
But there's still 200 tags issued.
Yeah, and that's you'll see that a lot in late season where they'll just herd up in the people's backyards and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard to get to them because there's greenery right there.
Oh yeah.
There's green, flowers, there's bushes there, there's grass there, there's you name it. I mean, there's sometimes even apples that fall out of apple trees in the backyard. Like it's there. So I mean,
there's apples that fall out of baskets.
Yeah. Well, yes.
From the grocery store.
Yeah. When you walk through the woods, you just throw them out of your backpack, right?
I've seen late season if people if they want to fill tags, if they really do, knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I would really like to fill my freezer. Would you mind me hunting your property and maybe shooting a doe? Or, a lot of people would probably be, there's 10 of them back there every day.
Yeah.
An easier hunt, but you're filling your tag and you're also doing the herd good.
Yes. 100%. Could not agree any more with that, because that's one thing I do want to see the number keep going up, like you talked about, but that doe population needs to come down, I think, quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Quite a bit. I mean, there's a lot of deer still in PA when people, even though they say there's no deer, I mean, 2G, that's so vast, like unless you don't put the boot leather to work. Like
I got a 2G doe tag this year. I went to an area I'd never hunted before.
Yeah.
Scouted it once. I went back there with a buddy because we wanted to do that. They were getting snow. I think it was the second week. They were getting a skiff of snow. And I was like, let's chase the snow. Let's just go up here. And he had a buck tag. I had a doe tag. And I think we seen 14 does. I was like, and 2 little bucks. And he didn't want, it was just nothing he wanted to shoot. So, but we're like, okay, there's definitely deer here on the big pieces of public. Like they're here. It's just they're not easy. Like I was creeping along and they jumped up at 200 yards. Like it's just like wasn't easy. But I filled a doe tag, never being there before. Kind of did a little bit, of research. Got lucky a little bit with how they bumped across in front of me, but they're there, 100%.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're 100% there. I mean, we had a cabin in 2G on the Clinton-Potter County line, and I mean, my dad, he went out in the woods half an hour and saw 5 buck chasing 1 doe, and it was just like in a matter of half an hour right there. Like they were all mature buck chasing this 1 doe. So like they're there. There's a lot of deer there, and that wasn't far into to, state forest either. So like that was right near the cabin. Like
I think too, to touch on, like, to control the doe numbers, I think we got to keep that competitiveness up in the buck structure, because then bucks are going to lose that testosterone drive.
Yeah.
Which I think totally goes into antler structure. You know what I mean? I think that all plays in hand. So, I mean, like, I think that's just as important, controlling the doe numbers to increase, the age structure and their antler quality. I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of the biggest bucks of this in the state come from pretty low deer density.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they got to be the bully of the, like, they can't, where you get into the high deer number areas down towards Maryland, below you guys where you're at right now. There's a lot of deer in small little wood blocks, but the bucks are scrubs. I mean, they're 4.6. They don't have to produce much. They just, they can breed. There's plenty to go around.
Oh yeah,
I think that too. I think an older mature buck. I think now, like, my theory is, if there are such big doe numbers, I think he'll stake out a doe bedding area and just wait. You know what I mean? He won't travel. He won't cruise. He won't have to cruise for a hot doe.
There's been, if you look into the old studies, I mean, Penn State did it, where there was bucks that they didn't even breed because the weather we had, they had to survive. They had to just be able to survive. So they're not going to run themselves to death trying to breed when they got to live.
Yeah.
When we get those ice storms in November and stuff, like, and you see a buck, it's like the 5th of November. I personally witnessed it, and they're bedded and they're feeding and they're just acting like nothing's going on.
Man, like that. It's
like,
deer are weird. Deer, like, so there's so many like variants to deer. Like buck, like
they're addictive.
Like one year they'll do one thing, and you're like, okay, I know this time there's going to be good rut action in this area, right? Or like it happens in late season. Like one guy told me, like, this piece of public that I hunted earlier this year, he's like, yeah, late season, like there's deer crossing this road right here because they're chasing right here. And that might have been the case last year. You go there this year and it's not the case. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And like, so I know a couple of years ago you got down an Ohio late season buck, right?
Yeah, last year. Yep.
Okay, last year. So, we talk a lot about, late season setups on the ground and trail camera placement, all that kind of stuff. So run us through that story there. And, if you had trail cameras, how they kind of helped you narrow in on that buck.
So that one wasn't it's a short but long story. So long story short, I was hunting a particular spot down. I go down to camp with Johnny. We hunt Southern Ohio, and I hunted this particular area that I did have a couple cameras, but there was not much activity on it.
Okay.
And I hunted it for 2 days, just, poking around. It's pretty vast country, trying to find food sources, trying to put, boots on the ground, homework. But I didn't want to just fly through an area because I would blow everything out. And then I back to square one. But the Amish came through and drove out the entire area I was hunting at 10:30, 11 o'clock. So I opted. I said, okay, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Literally, I drove down the road, and because I had no more spots to go because I didn't put enough. I basically had all my eggs in one basket. So I was driving down the road, and it was January. Nobody else was in the woods. I mean, I'd seen one group of guys, and they were right where I was at.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. I remember specifically. I'm driving. I look to my right, and there's a giant cut cornfield. But it looks like it got hit with like a junky push lawnmower because it was so terribly cut. It looked like it was brush hogged. And then you could see corn everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm I literally open my maps, and it's public right beside me, like right across the road. I'm not joking. I stopped in the middle of the road. I looked over. I couldn't see into the woods. It was so thick. And I just walked into. That's where I hunted.
Okay.
Giant loop. So I walked up this creek. I'm like, I need to get in here as far as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So I walked like 2 miles up this creek drainage, all the way to the top. Did a giant loop. Didn't see anything. Didn't see any sign. And then I was like, well, it's getting close to dark. I forgot my headlamp. I hunted back towards the truck. And that's where I started running into some sign at the top of this hill. And I found a scrape that looked like something that you would find like late October, early November, just absolutely thrashed. There was fresh urine in it. It was the size of a car hood. There wasn't a leaf in it. Like, it was destroyed.
Yeah.
I was literally blown away. It was on an old logging road. So there's probably half hour of daylight left. And I'm like, oh my, like, I don't know, like, what? Okay. And I just like looked at the track in the scrape and seen that they were coming like basically from the point that I walked around. I walked around this big point because I didn't really have the time to walk up and over and hunt it properly.
Right.
So I'm like, they're coming from this top and and it makes sense. It's a south facing slope. Food's below. Like, there's plenty of food and it's thick greenbrier. It's nasty. Exactly where you would shed hunt, like late season. And that's why I went in there. I'm like, this is a south facing slope. It's thick, whatever. Food's close. They're probably bedded up there on that point. Like, I didn't make any rocket science decisions. It was just like food, cover, thick, south facing, warm. It's January. They're probably going to bed right up there. I walk 20 yards and I stand for the next 10 minutes. I thought I heard a score and I turned around and that buck's standing there looking at me at 45 yards.
Oh my God.
He must have walked right down the path that I did, like right off the top.
Yeah.
Like the top third, walked right down the old logging road and was walking right towards that scrape. But I was 20 yards past the scrape, just standing on the ground. And I turned around and he must have either seen me or heard me. I think he heard me in the leaves because I was kind of like kicking it around, like I'm like, is this really this fresh?
Yeah.
And I think he was bedded and couldn't see, like he was on the top and could hear me down there messing around like I was another deer.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I just happened to walk off of it and stand and not move. And he came down and was walking right to it. And I caught him. And it was like we stared at each other like, what are you doing here? And my hammer was back and it was too late.
Oh my God. That was pretty much like the gist of that story. Like, were you filming that? Because if you film that and put it out, just, basic deer.
I wish I was filming. That was the only one I did not film. I had a GoPro and I'm like, it was getting late. I had it on my back. I was on a tripod on my back and I was like, I'm going into an area I've never been before. The chance of me seeing a deer and getting it on film are pretty much nothing. I'm on the ground.
Yeah.
I thought I was just going to continue walking, so I'm going to jump shoot something, if anything. That's where I really wish I had a cameraman over my shoulder. Like, that deer looking at me in the wide open.
Yeah.
What a moment.
150-inch deer. I mean, he was gorgeous. And it was just, it worked out so well. And the reason it worked out is I didn't overthink it.
Yeah.
I did some small, quick on the boots on the ground homework and just was like, it's January.
Yeah.
Deer bed on south facing slopes typically. Like, they want to be warm. They don't want to be in the north sides where it's all shaded all day. They're gonna, they want to be warm to conserve energy. That's the biggest thing, conserving energy. So I think he just bedded up there, hanging out and walking 500 yards down to the cornfield, crossing the road, feeding at night, walking back up and doing the same thing over and over and over and hitting that scrape every day on the way in.
Man. Nice.
The basic buck.
The basic buck.
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
Craziest part about that was I had 3 people reach out, like, as soon as I got it, that had it on camera. One of them was that landowner that didn't know he followed me. I didn't even know like anything about like. He's like, oh, I call that one socks. Here's pictures of him. Here's the other deer. Like I stay in contact with him, but he's the farmer that farms that ground.
Oh, okay.
So he hunts, but then the other two guys were guys that are associated with a company that actually sponsored me.
Okay.
They've been hunting that spot for a couple years. Like I had not a clue in the world.
Yeah.
And cameras like right on that top, and they're like, we had that buck on daylight the past 3 days, and we couldn't get there because they're from out of state.
Oh my god.
They're from Michigan and Tennessee, and they're like, that deer was daylighting like all week. And I just happened to walk into the exact same spot.
Wow.
Like pure luck. But it was like, I talked to John when I was telling Johnny, I'm like, this was pure luck. He's like,
yeah, you
got to give yourself some credit that you did a little bit of pre-existing knowledge. It's like, yeah, it does make this is where you would go to scout and look. This is a big giant food source.
Yep.
There's bedding in between, like it sets up, but there was a huge human trail in there that was crushed during the rut. Like it was probably hammered in the rut where guys were easy parking spot going in there to hunt. There's probably not a deer in there in November, December.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. That's an awesome,
great story.
Like it's like, you want all that work you put in and all that kind of stuff, and sometimes you just keep it basic and don't overthink, because I think all of us overthink it a lot when we go into hunting season.
Yep.
And it's sometimes you do have that, slight luck on your side where it's just like you set up there and bam, it happens.
And the big thing with that situation is don't quit. Like I didn't kill a deer last year so I didn't kill one in Pennsylvania at all. And then I killed one last day of bow season, late season, and I killed one the day before I shot that buck with my bow in Pennsylvania. Wow. And then I skinned him out, got in my truck, and drove to Ohio through the night, got up and hunted and killed that deer the next day.
Jeez, sounds like someone we know. sounds like Tim.
It does sound like
Tim. But it was one of those things that you can grind it all year. I was so down on myself, not getting anything, getting nothing accomplished. Like I just caught myself in a lull, and then I just kept at it. You just keep at it, and then all of a sudden it plays out. Like
100%.
So many people give up too early, and you just play it till the fat lady sings, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. Like I couldn't agree anymore. I mean, this episode, man, I loved having you on. Like I think I've been thinking about having you on for a while, and it just worked out where like late season, hey, like let's get Jake on here. Let's try and make it. And I think there's a lot of good information for people in this episode, especially like just getting back to basics. Like ground hunting. Find that fresh sign.
Yep.
Be mobile, but not in a mobile setup per se. Just be mobile on the ground
and adapt. Adapt to any given situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, where can people follow you at? And I know you have a YouTube channel too. So where can people follow you? Like, subscribe, all that kind of good shit.
Yeah, so like all my personal stuff is Jake Belinda on Instagram, but then like all the YouTube stuff is the Void Hunt, and I have the Void Media too, that I do all the professional side work for, that people want to gear out and photo, video, gear nerds. But I have a lot coming down the pipeline that I'm working on slowly now that the client stuff's over. I mean, I got 6, 7, 8 deer episodes I gotta drop.
Nice.
Wow. I can't wait to watch it, because I think I subscribed a while back, and like I just haven't, I don't think you've been posting too much on the YouTube side, too much like you've been doing.
And that's where the professional, like all the stuff that pays the bills, that I can keep going in the woods, that comes first, and then my own stuff comes second. But I got a lot that now I can take some time, and now it's off season coming up. I can pump this out and hopefully get it out in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Yeah, I think for the series that we're kind of planning, definitely have you back on for that would be epic, because you know, you're on that professional side of things,
Yeah.
and like to pick your brain about that stuff here, you know, I think it'd be good for, you know, not just for the self filmers, but for people who, you know, are just getting into it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, or even people who like, if Tyler comes out and films me, you know, like he might have, or I go out and film him, whatever. Like, you know, we kind of have that idea of like, okay, this is what we need to do.
Yep.
To have it look good. Like, you don't need the best equipment. Like you said, we can use.
No, you really don't. And you know, I've learned this from just being in camp with other guys that do it professionally, or picking somebody's brain. It's the same thing. So I pass on the knowledge. So it basically saves people time of buying the wrong stuff or not doing it, you know, that not coming out the way they want. It's like I try to make it simple, clean, so you can learn and just have fun with it.
Absolutely.
Awesome, dude. I love that.
Yeah, love it. Love it. I think that's the cool thing about, you know, everyone being on. It's like you share the knowledge.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff. Like I've learned a lot from multiple people having on, like even from Tyler here. Like I've learned a bunch from him. Yeah, it's cool to share the knowledge, and that's kind of what I like about this, is like sharing knowledge, helping people grow and adapt, and not giving away my spots.
Yeah,
I love that.
Pretty much, man.
Jake, it's been awesome talking to you, dude. Man, we'll be in touch about the series, and hopefully you can have some more success late season.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm gonna continue to grind it out here as much as I can.
Yeah, man. Best of luck. We'll stay in contact.
Yeah, sounds good. You too.
All right.
Hey, pleasure talking to you, Jake. Thanks, man.
See you guys.
See ya. About, you know, everyone being on. It's like you share the knowledge.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff. Like I've learned a lot from multiple people having on, like even from Tyler here. Like I've learned a bunch from him. Cool to share the knowledge, and that's kind of what I like about this, is like sharing knowledge, helping people grow and adapt, and not giving away my spots.
Yeah,
I love that.
Pretty much,
Jake,
man.
Jake, it's been awesome talking to you, dude. Man, we'll be in touch about the series, and hopefully you can have some more success late season.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm gonna continue to grind it out here as much as I can.
Yeah, man. Best of luck. We'll stay in contact.
Yeah, sounds good. You too.
All right.
Hey, pleasure talking to you, Jake. Thanks, man.
See you guys.